Former Commissioner of the National Women's Soccer League, Jeff Plush, has been exonerated of any wrongdoing during his tenure by the USA Curling Association. Plush succeeded Cheryl Bailey as the commissioner back in 2014 and tendered his resignation in 2017 following allegations of systemic verbal and emotional abuse and misconduct within the NWSL. The U.S. Curling Association, however, believes that Plush prioritized athletes' safety during this time. Find out more in today's video. Starting with USA Curling Association responds to Sally Yates' report. Former United States Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates carried out an investigation into the NWSL after several former athletes came forward with allegations of systemic emotional and verbal abuse and misconduct by coaches. Yates published a report detailing her findings on October 2nd. The report was shocking, to put it lightly. We'll get into more details about the former Attorney General's report in a while, but for now, we're focusing on what the USA Curling Association had to say following the October 2nd investigation. Yates centered her findings around former NWSL Commissioner Jeff Plush's tenure. Plush joined as the CEO of USA Curling in 2020. On October 5th, the USA Curling Association published its own report exonerating Plush of any wrongdoing. According to the association, they had conducted a thorough, independent investigation wherein they reviewed Yates' report, conducted their own research, and went through external and internal review processes. Accordingly, USA Curling believes that Plush, quote, acted in accordance with prioritizing athlete safety, end quote, during his time with the NWSL. The association went on to say that it understood the gravity of the allegations levied against the coaches and rumors of compliance by team owners. They wished victims of abuse both healing and justice. The Curling Association's report stated that their HR department, as well as their board itself, provided any information that was asked by the investigators for Yates' report. Interestingly enough, Plush handed in his resignation as the CEO of the U.S. Curling Association on October 28, 2022. Coming up next, what did Yates' report say? The U.S. Curling Association ended their report by claiming that they'd been at the U.S. Soccer investigation team's disposal ever since their investigation began late last year, October to be precise. And now, exactly 1 year later, Sally Yates has published her findings in a report that'll surely shock the athletics world. While her report centers around abuse of all kinds and by anyone, it focuses chiefly on three people: former Racing Louisville coach Christy Hawley, former Portland Thorns coach Paul Riley, and former Chicago Red Stars coach Rory Dames. Interestingly enough, Yates was hired by the U.S. Federation in October of 2021 after allegations were levied against Paul Riley yet again. Allegations had first surfaced during Riley's time as head coach of the Portland Thorns back in 2015, yet current and former players claimed that their allegations fell on deaf ears. Note that Plush had been acting as the commissioner for the NWSL from 2014 through 2017. Riley had been accused of coercion in a detailed report signed by multiple women. The former English professional soccer player denied these allegations, but was eventually fired on September 21st. The National Soccer League suspended Riley's license less than a day later. Lisa Baird, who had succeeded Plush as commissioner, handed in her resignation around a week later, along with General Counsel Lisa Levin. Moving on, Plush never responded to investigators. Yates' report conclusively cited that systemic abuse was rampant in the NWSL. There was no doubt about it. However, according to the investigators, several key players in the NWSL tried to impede or hinder their investigation, one of whom was Jeff Plush. The report called them all out with names. Racing Louisville failed to provide documentation and access to files that surrounded Christy Hawley's tenure as head coach. The team also forbade current and former employees from speaking with the investigators on certain aspects, claiming non-disclosure agreements they'd signed with Hawley. Basically, Hawley could be able to work anywhere he wanted without the allegations levied against him ever seeing the light of day. Likewise, Portland Thorns cited attorney-client privilege as their basis for refusing to provide necessary documentation on Riley's behavior during his term as head coach back in 2015, although that served as the very basis of the U.S. Federation's investigation into the NWSL. The report also claimed that the Portland Thorns unnecessarily delayed sending in any response or documents to the investigators, as did the Chicago Red Stars All-Stars, who took upwards of 9 months to respond. Plush, according to Yates' report, never responded at all, although Yates made note of the fact that he was the commissioner during the time that Riley had been acting inappropriately with female athletes. The report went as far as claiming that Plush knew about the allegations, but kept Riley on as head coach for more seasons. Moreover, Jeff Plush resigns again. Jeff Plush was signed on as the CEO of the U.S. Curling Association in 2020. On October 28, 2022, after nearly 2 years, Plush handed in his resignation. What prompted this? Not surprisingly, Yates' report. But Plush's announcement followed the Curling Association's independent findings that essentially exonerated Plush of any wrongdoing during his tenure as the commissioner of the NWSL. So what changed? USA Curling said it had accepted the resignation of CEO Jeff Plush and appointed Dean Gemmell, who most recently worked as the Federation's Director of Development, as interim CEO. Firstly, Plush's tenure was in turmoil already. The governing body voted at a members' assembly to expel the country's largest regional association for non-payment of dues during the pandemic. Clubs then complained that the debate was ended without them having the chance to voice their opposition, and about other irregularities in the whole voting process. They took to Twitter to express their grievances and tweeted at the association with the hashtag #FlushPlush. Then, after Yates' report, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force asked for Plush's immediate resignation from the association. They filed their petition with 11 signatures from current and former athletes. The task force gave them 2 options: fire Plush or the entire board tenders in their resignation. According to the group, he could not be trusted to prioritize the safety and well-being of athletes in the organization. On to our next segment. First up, USA Curling's Lynn LaRocca, 2 board members latest to resign. The organization that runs Olympic curling in the United States has seen several changes over the course of the past few weeks, following the U.S. Soccer's internal investigation into allegations of misconduct, including coercion by head coaches. Yates' report had been revolutionary, to say the least, not just for U.S. women's soccer, but for all of athletics. Jeff Plush was the first to resign on October 28th, after it was proven that the former commissioner of the NWSL knew about the allegations levied against Paul Riley, yet kept him on as head coach until he was eventually fired in 2021. LaRocca and board members Shane Coppola and Holly McLean resigned 5 days later. Brett Jackson, former head coach of the Detroit Curling Club, was signed on as the interim CEO of the association. In his opening address, Jackson claimed that current and past members of the sport made it into what it was today, something that had achieved phenomenal success from its grassroots only because of consistent hard work and effort. Jackson went on to say that his aim was to keep that momentum going and hopefully turn the association into something bigger and better. Additionally, the U.S. Curling Association has seen several controversies over the past couple of months. The Diversity Task Force called for Plush's immediate resignation as CEO. They claimed that the former NWSL commissioner failed to protect soccer players and therefore would not be able to protect members of the Curling Association. They based this on the fact that former Portland Thunder player Mana Shim had emailed Plush with a detailed description of the events that conspired, where Riley had asked for sexual favors and retaliated when he was rebuffed. Plush shared the emails and Riley was transferred to the Carolina Courage, but he was not fired until 6 years later. While the association itself exonerated Plush of any wrongdoing, Walker, a member of the Diversity Task Force, noted that according to safe sport protocols, any independent investigation made by the association would have to go through Plush before being published, thereby discrediting it entirely. Compliance wasn't all that Plush was accused of during his tenure with the NWSL from 2014 through 2017. Megan Rapinoe called out Plush by name when the women's soccer team had to practice in an undersized baseball field with subpar equipment. Other athletes echoed Rapinoe's concerns and claimed that they'd been considering offers from foreign teams because of Plush's ineptitude. Lastly, the U.S. Curling Association remembers Charlie Brown. On November 11th, the U.S. Curling Association released a statement wherein they expressed their grief over the unfortunate passing of Schenectady-based curler Charlie Brown. He was the former president of both the Schenectady Curling Club and the Grand National Curling Club and was most recently the USA curling director for the GNCC. The association remembered Brown fondly and asked for prayers for his family during these testing times. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Plush was complacent in the NWSL systemic abuse? Or do you agree with the US Curling Association's initial report on the matter? Let us know in the comments down below. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one.